Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the E-Chamber podcast, both on YouTube and all platforms where you can get podcasts. But I know your time is precious, so I want to jump right into things. You know, when we talk about the idea of support and we talk about how we ultimately need help, but not everyone really believes in it. We talk about the idea of it, but not everyone believes that completely. What do I mean? Sometimes we feel we're all on our own, although there's people around us. Maybe there's goals, maybe there's things you're trying to accomplish. And sometimes it's so hard to accomplish these things, you will think you're on your own and really you need to do everything on your own. But in essence, you're not alone, and everybody needs help. Everybody needs support to do everything. And when you think about just today, when you got up, how many people did you depend on today? If you're a spouse, you may have felt like one or two, maybe if you're a kid or a young person, some of your siblings you may have depend on, some of your friends. So for you, the list may be shorter. Each person is gonna decide in their minds, okay, maybe 5 people, maybe 6 people. But really, in essence, you've probably depended on 1,000 people just today. And you're like, 1,000 people, that's a lot. So I want to make a difference between direct support and indirect support. So direct support is, for instance, my daughter and my wife went out today, so that she's directly supporting me taping this podcast by giving me space. She may directly support me by buying certain things, buying me lunch later today. So my wife is directly supporting me. But indirectly, I am depending on, first of all, the people who function. I don't know how technically the internet works, but I'm depending on them because I want to be able to tape and upload the podcast. I've depended on the people who create inventions, the microphones, the lighting, the camera. I'm depending on them. I'm depending on farmers when it talks about food. I'm depending on first line workers, whether it's grocery stores. I'm depending on them. I went out earlier today. I need to drive. I'm depending on the gas station being run. Look at all these things. You keep adding up. All these people I'm indirectly depending on. So there's a direct kind of support and indirect support. So when you think about it like that, no one is an island unto themselves. No one is doing everything they need to function throughout the day on their own. You may have very little direct support. So let's say you're single, you're living on your own. It may be very difficult because you don't have a lot of direct support, but indirectly, you're probably getting a lot of support. And the question I want to ask now when it comes to accomplishing your goals, your dreams, visions you have for yourself, whatever it is, could it be possible that you are trying to live out something or accomplish something individually that was meant to be done in a team? So, obviously I love basketball and that is a team sport, but you do it. My contribution to basketball is as an individual. So if I play a certain position, I do that individually. When you talk about my roles, I do that individually. However, it is a part of a collective. It's part of a team. In the Bible, when Paul talks about the church, he compares it to a body, and just like a body, you have an eye, you have a nose, you have all these things, all these body parts. That's how you function together. And just because one part of you is not as important, it doesn't mean that it's not a part of a body. It's still part of the body. So when it comes to yourself as an individual and certain things you need it, there's levels of support you may need. It may be something very small. I'm taping this podcast, and something as small as the connection of the computer and the power that I'm getting, that one wire, if something's not working right, I can't do this podcast. So it's small, but it has a big impact. So I want you to start thinking about what are these things, and maybe even start writing these things down and start looking if you need more support. Because if you need more support, sure, you may be able to accomplish it, but you may be stressing yourself out. It may be taking you longer to accomplish certain things because you don't have the right support around you. You actually need support. I looked at the fact that when I think about when Crystal, I didn't say me, when Crystal had Riley, there were a lot of people in the room. Crystal was the one struggling. Crystal was the one in labor. And all I could do is hold her hand and remind her to breathe. But there were all kind of people around helping to support that. So I'm not saying that it's going to get easier when you have supports, but it may become a little bit easier in the sense to say that if you were on your own, it would be that much harder. Imagine if me and Crystal try to have that child on our own in the house. We wouldn't know as much. Sure, we can read books and stuff, but it's harder to do. So you have to have that support team, and it could be that you have multiple teams. It could be multiple things, and it doesn't have to always be direct one-to-one. So let's say you're trying to get out of debt. You're trying to get out of debt. You may indirectly get support in terms of you're listening to podcasts, you're getting books, you're getting all type of resources. They're indirectly supporting you. Then you may have a financial advisor. Then you may be asking other people. So financially, you see you have a whole support team. So when I mean support team, it doesn't mean you always have like 5 or 6 people on a task. It may be for certain things, you're going to depend on information that you can get from the internet. But the others, you're going to have advisors around you. For other people, you're going to have people to actually execute certain parts. So one of the things me and my wife talked about is her helping me, because I post some things. I do all this stuff on my own. Her helping me by posting certain things and doing certain things that, although I could do it, I would be more effective if I got some help. So you can't let pride get in the way. You can't let insecurities get in the way. You have to truly depend on people, understanding that you're going to ultimately be more effective when you actually accept people's support rather than try to do it on your own. So that's it for today. I'm very thankful for you tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with somebody, and have a good rest of your day. Peace.